So from time to time, I like to make videos recommending classic literature that you might enjoy based on your favorite modern books, movies, TV shows, genres, and so on and so forth. Today I'm going to be recommending classics for Star Trek fans. I guess the big question to ask yourself if you are a Star Trek fan who's wanting to read classic literature would be, what aspects of Star Trek appeal to you? It's a show with a very long history that tackles a lot of different themes and subject matter. So if you're someone who's into Star Trek for the exploration factor, I might recommend different classics than I would if you're someone who's into it for the scientific ethics and what makes someone human and measure of a man type episodes. But regardless, I have a lot of suggestions, so let's get started. One of the first things that came to mind when I started thinking about classics that Star Trek fans might enjoy was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is the story of a long voyage, similar to a lot of the Star Trek shows. And it's a journey through unknown and sometimes dangerous territory, but it's written with a sense of awe, like the wonder of nature. The Star Trek shows are often very optimistic, and they view the galaxy as, yes, a dangerous place sometimes, but also just this amazing thing that needs to be explored. Both Star Trek and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea also have more things going on than just the exploration. In 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, there's Captain Nemo and his whole backstory and his true agenda as far as what he's doing with the submarine. And then in Star Trek, there's also a whole lot of other stuff going on relating to science and questions about what makes a good society and things like that. But both of them have that science fiction adventure thing going on, so I think that if you like the adventure aspect of Star Trek, you might like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Now, I will caution you, though, that it can be a bit much in terms of it's a relatively long book, and sometimes it gets kind of sidetracked. Sometimes the main character just wants to tell you all about the fish that he's seeing out the window, and it's like, okay, can we move on with the plot? But it also has a lot of sections that are really exciting sci-fi adventure. If you're more interested in the scientific side of Star Trek, you might like Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, particularly if you like the episodes like Measure of a Man that ask questions about what should and shouldn't we be doing with science, or what makes something or someone human, things like that. Frankenstein really delves into those questions. It's not at all like the movie versions of Frankenstein. It's not primarily like a monster story where there's this, all of the running and screaming and the villagers with pitchforks and all of that. That's mostly a movie thing. The book version of Frankenstein is the story of a scientist and the thing that he created, and it questions whether he should have created it and whether he's responsible for the harm that it does. Typically, one of the questions people ask themselves when they read Frankenstein is, who's the real monster in the story? Is it the creature, or the guy that created the creature? Another recommendation that I have is Sherlock Holmes. Mostly just because of the episodes in Next Generation where Data is playing Sherlock Holmes on the holodeck. There's a hologram version of Professor Moriarty who becomes sentient and intelligent and everything. So if you thought that those episodes were interesting, maybe try reading Sherlock Holmes. Another reason for recommending Sherlock Holmes is that there's often an element of mystery to Star Trek. Now, very few of the episodes are just outright a murder mystery. Some of them are, very few of them. But there are occasional episodes where a crew member is accused of a crime, and another character has to investigate and find out what really happened, and it involves making a lot of deductions and putting together all of the clues and everything. And then there are other episodes where there's something not quite right here on the planet that they beam down to, or something going on the ship, or whatever, and they have to put together all of the clues to make sense of it. So if you enjoy the mystery aspect of Star Trek, you might enjoy Sherlock Holmes. If you like Star Trek, and especially Star Trek Voyager, another book that you might like is the Odyssey. Now, the Odyssey is very long and it is not light reading, but it has a very similar story actually to the story of Star Trek Voyager. Except whereas a large portion of the original Voyager crew makes it home, Odysseus is the only one from his ship that makes it home. However, just the idea of being stranded far away from home and taking an incredibly long journey to get back, and along the way encountering all kinds of crazy things that have never been seen before, that feels very much like Star Trek Voyager. And then one last recommendation, Shakespeare. I didn't pick out a specific Shakespeare play for this. There's such a wide variety of Star Trek episodes and shows that it would be hard to pick a particular Shakespeare play that would appeal broadly like that. But there are so many Shakespeare references in Star Trek that I just had to put it on the list. So if you're a Star Trek fan and you're curious about all those Shakespeare references, I definitely recommend trying out Shakespeare. I'm a big Shakespeare fan. I've actually read about a third of his plays and I'm still going. I'm gonna read them all at some point. If you're a Star Trek fan and you also like classics, let me know which ones in the comments down below.